have two speakers that will take us on a journey. We have Gnaka Lagoke. Dr. Gnaka is an activist and Pan-African. Dr. Gnaka is going to take us through the journey when Dramane Ouattara was the Prime Minister. He's going to allow us to walk through what Ivorian people lived when he was Prime Minister. And after his conference, there will be a second speaker, Monsieur Gnaka Lagoke. Gnaka Lagoke is a diplomat. He's an activist of human rights. Currently, he served since 1992. He served with the Red Cross and is a representative of Ivory Coast in Geneva and in New York.
I'm going to begin this presentation by thanking a number of people. I would like to thank first one of our mentors, Dr. Kokora, and who is one of the 5 people who created the Ivorian Popular Front. He's been a mentor for all of us, as he's been supportive of the cause. I would like to thank Demba Traoré, who is the leader of the Ivorian Popular Front representation in the U.S. and with his bureau. And I have a few people with whom I have a great connection. I would like to mention Laurent Ibei and Nyali. I would like to thank Emmanuel Gibi and Delma Serigale. And I've been having some strong connection with those 2 individuals since I came to the U.S. And when people were doubting me and I was dealing with many different type of challenges, they have been with me since 1999. I would like to thank 2 leaders, Sheikh Dioum, André Bagba, and the IBDD of New York. And they've been doing a wonderful job in New York and working to improve the cause here in this city and in connection with other organizations. I would like to thank Eric Eddy and Dorothy. I was in Philadelphia last Saturday, and it was a nice and beautiful ceremony. It was cold, but I was happy to be there, and I could see those beautiful and wonderful women and working with him. And here we have one here, her name is Dorothy. I would like to thank my friend George and my sweetheart Darlene, with whom I have been working diligently for the last 5 years, and to try and promote a vision and also try to live up to some of the principles for which we are here in this room. I wanted to thank the people who gave me the opportunity to be here and to talk about February 18, 1992. I was a young journalist in Le Nouvel Horizon and Notre La Voix, newspapers created by, at that time, the leader of the opposition, the former president of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo. So I was a witness, and but today is not going to be. I'm not going to talk about that event as somebody who experienced or who witnessed something. I'm going to try and talk about the topic I proposed, February 18, 1992, and February 18, 2012, a parody as the completion of what started on February 18, 1992. So with regard to the historical background, we should know that February 18, 1992 in Ivory Coast intervened in a moment of tension in Ivory Coast. Laurent Gbagbo who struggled for 30 years to bring democracy and freedom to Ivory Coast, was the emerging or the leading figure of the opposition. And then he was trying to struggle with his political party and all the forces of progress in order to consolidate what they have achieved, which was the return to multipartyism in Ivory Coast on April the 30th, 1990. So in 1990, under the pressure of the international community, and then under the pressure of unions and various groups of progress in the country, and Houphouët-Boigny was the former president of Ivory Coast, was obliged in order to allow what we call the return to multi-party system. In the Constitution of Ivory Coast, the Article 7 recognized the existence of political parties, but Ivory Coast was living under the Houphouët-Boigny's rule in a system of dictatorship. And then under the pressure of the international community and the struggle of people who fought for freedom and democracy, Houphouët-Boigny accepted then what we call multi-party system. But the forces that were in power realized that even though they were obliged to acknowledge or to recognize multi-party system, they wanted to do everything possible to destroy that momentum or to destroy the process. And then the era of 1990 coincided with the arrival on the political scene in Ivory Coast of somebody called Mr. Dramane Ouattara, who was the president of an interministerial committee, and later on he became the prime minister of Ivory Coast. With Alain Dramane Ouattara as the prime minister, Houphouët-Boigny thought that he found the person or the very man through whom he could consolidate his power. And we could see on different levels the implementation of series of policies from the economic, political, and social front, how Mr. Ouattara wanted to implement neoliberal policies, privatizing, firing people here and there, and at the same time, he wanted to destroy the forces of resistance in the country. So this is the historical background. It is in that environment that the Union of the Students, we call FESI, that was led by Aipo Martial, was arrested on February 13, 1992. It was, and then one thing I was about to forget, the night of 17 to the 18, 1991, there was a punitive expedition of the army of Ivory Coast and the gendarmerie in the student student campus in Yopougon. So there was many people there were different type of human rights violations. Well, students were raped, people were beaten, and then there was a national commission that was allowed by Houphouët-Boigny under the pressure again of national forces in the country in order to investigate who did what so that the perpetrators can be punished against himself. And then later on February 30, 1992, Aipo Martial was arrested. So it was in that environment that Babo Laurent, the leader of the opposition, called for a series of peaceful demonstrations in order to ask Félix Houphouët-Boigny to punish the perpetrators of those who committed those human rights violations on the student campus in Yopougon that night of 17 to the 18th, 1991. So that day, the forces of Houphouët-Boigny and all the department of the intelligence and the army, they decided to take the opportunity in order to, once for all, destroy the opposition or even kill Laurent Gbagbo. That day, hundreds of Gbagbo's protesters, his wife, his son, were put in jail, and Gbagbo stayed in jail for almost 6 months, and he was freed on July the 31st, 1992. So during Gbagbo's trial, that's one thing I'm going to mention, and then I will come back to that on the second part of my presentation. We could see the mobilization of Senegalese, people from Mali, and all those lawyers who came in order to defend Gbagbo because they believed in the struggle and they believed in what he was doing for freedom in Ivory Coast and also for freedom in the continent of Africa. So right there already we could see some signs of that Pan-African emotions I talk about in most of my my presentation. So what are the lessons we could learn from what happened that day? That freedom is a permanent struggle, that you cannot say that you have attained a level of freedom because the regressive forces will always try to undermine the progression, if I can say that, of the progressive forces. That's the major lesson. And the second, we could see that Pan-African emotion. Now, the second part of my presentation is going to be about the recent events. So when on April 11, 2011, we see Gbagbo being captured, his wife being molested and beaten, his son being beaten, his children arrested, Gbagbo Desire being killed. What we could see, and that seemed to amaze the whole wide world for the Ivorian people and people who are observers of the political reality in Ivory Coast, for us it was the déjà vu. We saw that already in what happened in Ivory Coast 20 years ago. Why Gbagbo Laurent was arrested, or why Gbagbo Laurent experienced that humiliation, it is because, and that's one thing, when I talk about that, I'm sometimes critical of some of these approaches. When we saw what happened to Gbagbo in 1992, one could anticipate that when it comes to power, we could see the same people who try to kill him doing everything possible to destabilize him. And Mr. Ouattara arrival on the political scene make us look at two things. Ethnicity and violence were used by Alain Dramane Ouattara either to have access to power when already the Constitution gave the possibility to Henri Konan-Bédié to become the successor of Félix Houphouët-Boigny. Talking about ethnicity, we could see that there was the chart of the Northerners, because when people talk about the concept of ivoirité, sometimes they forget to put it in perspective with another concept. The chart of the Northerners, it was a pamphlet written by Alpha Blondy in 1990. And then in which he was calling upon all the people from the northern part of the country in order to come together as one, even secede when Houphouët-Boigny dies. Asked on national TV what he thinks about that, Mr. Ouattara said that he could not prevent people to support him. That already was a bad sign. There was something negative against the national fabric of our nation, where many ethnic groups were living in a sort of harmony, even though it was under one-party system. Under Mr. Ouattara also, we could see that as he decided to believe that with violence he could break the opposition, that he rejected, that he did not want to integrate to the political system in the country, that already that was a sign that Mr. Ouattara believes in violence as a method to either access to power or as a method of governance.